Hello everyone, this is Kaustubh here from Inside Stat and welcome to this new video, and we are going to continue our discussion on filter functions. In our previous video we talked about the calculate function, and we're going to extend that discussion and we're going to talk about one more important function in the DAX library, that is the all function. Now let's first understand what does all do. All removes filter from a column or a table. That's right. So just like calculate brings in a filter, all removes a filter. And if you look at the syntax, we can pass either a table, an entire table, we can pass a column. And there are some optional criterias as well, which we will understand. So if you look at the syntax, so the table or column. So this is the table or column that you would want to apply or take away the filter from. Right? You can pass an entire table, like we can pass the entire sales data table, or we can pass just a column. For example, from the product category table, I just want to take off the filter from the product color column, right? So this all function works either on the entire table or on the column. Now, what about the optional um, criteria that we have, the optional columns that we have? So these are additional columns. So column 2, column 3, 4, 5, however many number of columns you would want to put in. These are additional columns that you would want to remove the filters on. And this is optional. Okay. Now the very important thing to remember here is, if the first parameter is a table name, you are applying all, or you are taking off the filter from an entire table, then we cannot specify columns. Okay. And if we are specifying columns, we must ensure that all the column names or all the columns come from the same table, and it must include the table name, which is very, very important. Right? So if you look at the examples here, if I'm using the territory name or the territory region, it all comes from the territory table. Okay. Similarly, I can pass one column here as well. It can come from the customer table, and the column can be age. But the important thing to remember here is, just like calculates brings in a filter context, brings in a filter, all removes a filter. So both work in opposite direction. One brings in a filter and the other removes a filter. Okay, now let's put this into perspective and look at a couple of examples from the Power BI. So what kind of use cases can we think of using all? And please remember, all function by itself would not make a lot of sense. So if you will see examples of all is mostly used with the calculate function. It is used inside of the calculate function. Now, what kind of use cases can we think of? It is mostly used to calculate percentage of totals, right? For example, we want to look at how a product is performing, how a category is performing maybe, or what is the percentage of returns, or what is the percentage of orders by categories. It is also used in year-on-year comparisons. It is used in unfiltered rankings. It is used in rolling averages. It is used in benchmarking. What is benchmarking? If you want to control the, or if you want to compare the performance of a region maybe, or the performance of a team. If you want to compare how a region performs compared to the overall performance. So this is how all is used. Okay, now let's take a simple example to start off with. Now let's say I bring in a matrix, and in this matrix I have the category names, right? And I have the total orders. Okay, so this is the total orders, and we are looking at it in a filter context where we are grouping by the category name, and we are looking at the total orders. Now I would want to look at the percentage of total orders by the category. How do I do it? In order to do that, I would need this value, this entire um, total orders, to be the denominator. And then I would divide each of the accessories or the bikes, each of these categories, by this value, and we will get the percentage contribution of each category. Now, how do we get this? So let's say I go here to measures table, new measure, and I say total orders, um, all. Let me call it total orders, all. And here I'll say uh, calculate. Now calculate, I would want to calculate, the expression will be total orders, and instead of putting in a filter here, I can put the all function. Now remember, what does calculate says? Calculate accepts as the second argument, it accepts Boolean filters, or it can be a table expression as well. You can return an entire table as well, right? So inside of this all function, now this all function can also return a table. So I put in all, and then I say that I want to put, or I want to take out the filter on the sales data table. Let me close this. Let me close the other one as well. So this is my total orders all. And let me put a comma here, and let me pull it to the visual. Look at this. Now each of these rows have the entire total. It ignores the filter context. This is the beauty of all. Even if I have used the calculate function here, since I have used all, so the total orders is being calculated for the entire sales data table. It ignores. Now when I bring this to my visual here, even though the visual has a filter context, which we know in this case is the category name, it ignores it. So now it becomes all the more easier for me to calculate the percentage contribution. How do I do it? It's very, very simple. I go to measure table, go to a new measure, and this time I say percentage, let's say, I call it percentage contribution. And I'll do a divide, and I'll divide total orders, and I'll divide total orders all. And sorry for the naming convention, it's not very intuitive. We can come up with new names as well, but this is just to drive the point. So when I click on this, let me put it as a percentage with 2 decimal points. That's fine. Let me bring it here now. Oops. Now look at this. So accessories is contributing 67.5 or 67% to the entire total. Bikes is next. Bikes are contributing 55% to the entire order, followed by clothing. So this is much more intuitive, right? Now, when I do this calculation, even if I remove total orders all, this still stays, this still holds. So this is absolutely fine, right? So this is one of the use cases. As I was saying, we can use it to find percentage orders. Okay, one more example can be when we are doing, let's say, uh, territory comparison, the performances between territories, right? So let me delete this. Let me get rid of this. Let's say I want to compare the performances between territories. Okay, now how do I do it? Now for that, I would first need total orders, which I already have here. This is the total orders. Next, I would create one more measure that would ignore the filter context, or that would take out filter from the entire territory table. Okay, so I can say total orders all regions. Now when I say this, total order all regions, and I put calculate, I want to look at total orders. I have total orders here, and then I can put all, and I can tell all that I don't want any filters in the territory lookup table. Now look at this, I'm using an entire table here, the territory lookup table. Okay, I can alternatively use, inside the territory lookup table, I can use region, right? So if I'm using a region, I can use other filters, but it has to come from the same table. Okay, so let me put it as territory lookup, and let me close it. Let me close this as well. So this is my performance of total orders by all regions. Now when I bring in another table and I bring in the region name here, and I bring in my total orders all regions in the values, look at this. Since we applied a filter, it is going to show the same thing. Now how do we make sense out of this? This does not end here. Now let's say what I meant was I wanted to look at the territory performance. How are the different territories performing? So what I can do is I can come up with another measure, and I can call this territory performance, and I can divide this time. I can use total orders, and I can use the total orders all regions, and let me put it as a percentage with 2 decimal points. Now instead of the total orders all regions, I would put total orders here. Let's do a comparison, and I would bring my territory performance here. Look at this, right? So I can look at how Australia is performing. Australia is contributing 24% to all the orders, out of all the orders, followed by Canada, which is 12%, and then Central US stands at 0.04%, Northwest US stands at 14.6%, so on and so forth. Okay, now let's look at the same thing in a different light. So what we are going to do here now is I'm going to bring in 3 different KPI cards. One will talk about the total orders. So this is our total orders, 25,000, which we already know. I'll bring in another KPI card. Here I would like to bring in the total orders all regions, which now will again show the same thing. It's 25,000. And then a third KPI card will bring in the territory performance, which would show as 100% because no filters has been applied on it, right? Now I'll bring in a slicer. So let me bring in a slicer, and I'll put region here. Okay, so I have not selected any region as of now, but this is the filter that I'm going to apply. Okay, so now when I click on Australia, look at this. My total order all regions does not change. What changes is total orders and the territory performance, because I have no filters or no all function that has been applied on total orders. And since we are using total orders to calculate territory performance, the filter would apply here as well. But since we have used an all criteria and all function to calculate total orders by region, this will not take effect. The filter would not take effect into total orders by all regions. Similarly, for if I filter it by Canada, everything else changes but the total orders by region. Now, let's say I bring in another filter. Okay, before that, let me bring in another slicer, and in this slicer I am going to bring in the product color. Right, so this is the product color. Now everything changes. Look at this. This is interesting, right? Everything is changing now, right? Because in this total orders all regions, I have not set any all criteria that would ask it not to filter by product color. So now if I go to total orders all regions, and now this is total orders all. Is this total order all regions? Yeah, total orders all regions. So now if I come up with another all that would only talk about the product lookup product color, and let me close this. I don't need this. Let's see if it works. There you go. So now if I change the color, look at this. Now this is not changing at all. Even if I change the region, this will stay constant. So for Australia, for black colored products, this is the total number of orders, and the percentage contribution is 8.7%. Right? So this is another way of looking at how to remove filter context. Right? So this is how all works. It's very, very important. As I said, this works stark opposite to how calculate works. I hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer. But for today, that's all I had. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.